Okay, so we've been going through so many sessions today. We have done getting physical, talking physical, and we just completed physically present. So coming up next, we will be going through beyond physical, pornography addiction among young people. And for this session, we will be having a husband and wife duo. Dr. Paul Na is a medical doctor and is a retired anatomist. He was a deacon at Calvary Church between 1980 to 1998 and was also the head of Family Life Calvary Church between 1980 to 1998. So Dr. Chiam, his wife, is a physician who co-manages a Christian medical group. They have 3 children and 4 grandchildren, and they presently worship in Damansara Utama Methodist Church. Dr. Paulna and Dr. Chiam are both patrons of an orphanage in PD that homes 40 children, am I right? And they are also seminar speakers on this topic of porn addiction in the Malayan churches. They have also written 2 books titled The Durian Years of Marriage and The Neuroscience of Porn Addiction Made Simple. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our speaker, Dr. Paul Na, up to share with us on his topic. Right, let's give him a welcoming round.
Thank you very much. Well, the lights are so bright. Okay, let's see how it works. Okay, is the Boys Brigade affected by internet porn? Okay, this one is something this perhaps is the most important part of the lecture. Pornography always destroys life. Always destroys life. Okay, don't forget that. And eventually, So, never get into it. And the best time to give it up was yesterday. And the second best time is to give it up today. That's the urgency, The longer you are into it, the more difficult it is to get out of it. Now, porn has never been as bad as now. The trend of porn viewing, the number of people involved are increasing, And if this is the years, then you have, take 1940, right, to 2000. So the viewing of porn has slowly increased, but from 2000 to 2022, there's a sudden surge in the viewing of porn. So we have asked the question, why? 2 main reasons. One is the access to internet. Number 2 is technology, computer and smartphone. Those are the things that is affecting. The internet, there's the good, there's the bad, and there's the ugly. Yeah. And I take the internet like an undersea world. It looks so beautiful, isn't it? But see, this creature is the box jellyfish. It looks so nice. It moves very slowly. The upper part of it will open up, and then slowly the jellyfish will move around, But if you touch the tentacles, it will be extremely painful, because the exotoxin will go into your skin, and there'll be severe pain and paralysis occurs. and the person dies within 6 hours. Then there's this one here called the sea urchin. Same thing. It looks so beautiful, you like to take it home, isn't it? Huh? And you see the yellow fronds there interconnected to each other. Same thing, it is poisonous. And then the starfish, you think it is not dangerous, isn't it? It has also poison. Now I want to introduce to you the stonefish. See, this stonefish looks like a rock. And if you look at the picture here, there are actually 3 stonefish. I'm just wondering whether you can see it or not. Can you make out anything? Well, I'll show it to you. There's one here. There's one there. There's another there. So danger is there, you know. Danger is there. But it cannot be seen. And then when I dissolve it off, you see, it almost invisible amongst the rocks. Now, this is just a video.
All the time, the stonefish lucked out. Prey vanishes in an instant.
So, the undersea world is like the internet. Huh? There are good things there, and there are also bad. The stonefish is like the porn website. They have been gobbling up more and more of our Christian members. And the thing is, not much is being done about it. I've been to many churches, and I can't even remember one that has a ministry in porn addiction. But the devastating consequences, what happens if you become an addict? Well, the addict suffers shame and guilt, tremendous shame and guilt, especially if he is a Christian, because he knows what is right and wrong. Then he becomes a compulsive liar because he has to account for the time he's missing watching porn, you know. So if he comes late from home, then he has to explain to the wife. If he's at work and he misses the work, he has to explain to the boss. So he's a very compulsive liar and a very capable liar. Okay? Has poor work for performance because he spends a lot of time on the porn. Sometimes he gets into financial difficulties. Maybe he doesn't do his work well, and maybe he neglects his work. He neglects to increase his own capabilities. So he may be demoted or sacked. You know? And he's not aroused by normal sex. And this is very important in the family. You see, porn is all about perverted sex. So a child, say about 10 years old, not married yet, right? So when he goes into it, he learns immediately perverted sex. Okay? And that is a difficult part of it. And they suffer sometimes from erectile dysfunction. Very young men, say up at 30 to 40, they get it, you know. And they cannot relate because they keep on staying by themselves, can't relate to God, can't relate to the wife, children, and people. So eventually they end up miserable and lonely. And surprising enough, they found in statistics, most people see porn between 9 and 5 at their job. So a person may be looking at the computer, but he will not be actually doing work, you know. He may be watching porn. And so the person becomes a dead Christian. For the spouse, it is as painful as adultery. And there's a loss of trust. And this trust is a very important virtue to have in marriages, you know. The moment your spouse, you can't trust your spouse, say the wife cannot trust the husband, every night she'll be worried, where is my husband tonight, And if he goes overseas for a few months, she is even more worried. So the tension is very high. And then he likes to have porn sex, perverted sex, so that degrades the woman, It doesn't give dignity to the woman. So she feels rejected and loss of self-esteem. She'll be asking, why am I not beautiful enough to hold my husband? So she feels rejected by the husband. So eventually she gets depression, then there's separation, divorce, and then you have a broken marriage. Christian ministries, there are a lot of leaders who are immoral and also the members. So there'll be loss of anointing and stunted ministries, and you get a dying ministry. Statistics from US and Malaysia, this is very, very important for you all to know. Okay, a lot of people don't know this, Okay, in America, in 2009, in the US, they did a survey among the evangelical Christians. Okay? So they did on men, they did on women. You know how many percentage of born-again Christians, how many percentage of them are involved? 65%. Women, not so much, 25%. Now this is what I'm very concerned about. Pastors and leaders, 55%. And our moral climate in Malaysia is not very far from that of US, There was a mega church that had a youth camp, and they just made a quick survey. How many percent of the youth are involved in premarital sex? You all know what's the percentage? Is it 10%? 20%? It is 50%. Okay? So the morality of Malaysia is not far from that of the US. Now, I'm going to show you this Pornhub. It's actually a website, and they are making so much money. They're making so much money that they can do surveys, to help sell the material. So they did some statistics on Malaysian cities, and they just tried to calculate how long do people come to this website and stay there for how long. Now, some people will go in and come out, so they don't take long, but some people will take longer. But when you average it out, then you will see the amount of time they spend on porn. So I would expect that the Kuala Lumpur will be highest, right? Then you have Johor Bahru, Penang, Ipoh, Kota Kinabalu, or Kuching, right? But no, very strangely enough, the highest is in Kuala Terengganu, almost 13 minutes. Okay? KL expected 12.29, then Kota Baru 12.27, Miri 12.27, and Kuantan 12.15. Now, what is so strange about this? These are the states that actually the people are mainly Muslims, right? Now, you may think that 13 minutes is very short, but the average in Malaysia is 12.05. In the US, it's 10.35. In the world, it's 10.0. So we are very good, We are 8th in the world, man. Okay, there was a survey done by Dr. Kerr and Lim. Okay, she did a survey in 2017 on twins in Malaysia, and she found, tried to find the percentage who watched before 8 years old, and also the percentage before 10. Do you know what's the percentage? Before 8, it is 7%. And before 10, it is 19%. And Mr. Lim did a survey on people that view porn from 18 to 30. And he found that before 12, how many there were? And then age 13 to 15, and age 16 to 17. Now, where do you think the most number of people get to view the porn the first time? What age was it? They found that before 10 is 30%, before 12. Now, this is surprising to you. Between 13 to 15, 44%. That's about 45%. Then 16 to 17, 13%. So, if you group this up, these are dealing with primary school children, Okay, no? And 13 to 15 and 16 to 17, they are the one in secondary school. And if you average all this out, you'll find that 87% watch porn by the time they reach sixth form. That's about 90%. They view porn for the first time. Okay, Satan's strategy. Satanic plan is very simple, the devil, he does things in a very simplistic way, but very effective. The family is the basic social unit of the church, right? You destroy the family, you actually destroy the church. Destroy the church, you destroy society. And when you destroy society, you destroy the world. That is his plan. One of Satan's favorite weapons is what? Pornography. John 10:10 says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. It's destroying, Okay, 10 things about porn addiction that most people don't know. Okay. Let's go to number 1. Things that experts say. Okay. So 10 things. I'm sorry about the thing. You cannot treat a porn addict without understanding the psychology of porn addiction. John 8:32 says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. What is the chance of a porn addict getting healed by himself alone? It's 1 in 100,000, which means practically 0. You see? So, but a lot of them keep quiet, they don't tell anybody, so they suffer. Yeah? Is normal counseling good enough? Not enough, okay? Failure rate is 95%. So if a person has a problem, they come to you, you counsel them for 4 or 5 weeks, you think that it's okay. No, it's not okay. Treatment will be more successful if the porn addict is a born-again Christian, okay? And treatment will not be successful if the addict is not committed. No point treating people that, okay, come for treatment. No point, you waste your time, okay? Those who are strongly committed, then you take the time to help them. Which is more difficult to get healing? Drug addiction or porn addiction? They have said that it's porn addiction. And you know how difficult it is to get out of drug addiction. How long does it take to get healed? 2 to 5 years. Oh, you say so long. Well, that person, by the time he comes for help, may have been viewing porn from 15 to 20 years. So you can't expect it to just go away like that. Does a spouse need counseling? Yes. Sometimes you treat the addict, you never treat the wife. The wife is also suffering, Do the children need counseling? Yes, because father and mother always quarreling. And porn addiction is not just a problem of the addict, it is a family problem, and you have to deal with them as a family. A successful ministry does not mean that a person is not a porn addict. God is very kind and patient. So if you have a successful ministry and you think, wow, it's good, I'm improving, but I'm a porn addict, so I don't have to give it up, Okay, the fall of a great Christian. Okay,
What you're referring to is I was molested when I was very young. And
louder.
Didn't tell anybody, didn't know what to say, didn't even know how to express it. But from that stirred some sexual curiosity in sexuality and in pornography. And I was so torn and conflicted because on one hand, I loved Jesus with all my heart. I was a good girl. I keep telling myself, I'm a good girl. How can I be attracted to pornography? And it created this huge conflict within me. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to even tell anybody I was struggling. Say to other people, we all struggle. Don't struggle alone. I struggled alone. And as a result, it just grew in importance. It grew in its power on me. So when we got married and sex didn't work, again, we argued about how sex didn't work and why it didn't work and what was wrong with us. And again, we didn't know who to talk to. We were in ministry. He was a youth pastor. Wow. Who do we tell that our marriage is in a shambles? And through that, of God meeting me and in confession and in being able to share that with another trusted Christian friend and work through steps of recovery myself, I can tell everyone who might today be sitting there and nobody has an idea that pornography has a hold in your life. You know, nobody knows it when they're talking to you, but you know it. And I can tell you that there is hope.
Do you know who this is? Huh? No, huh? Somebody you know very well. Kay and Rick Warren. This Kay Warren. So why is this? The 12 things, the follow, dealing with the root problem, okay? Now, in my house, in the garden, this thing keeps on growing, you know. This is called lalang. So my wife will ask me to cut the lalang. So I cut the lalang, so much of effort, you know. But just in a few days or a week, it grows up again, you know. And the reason is there are roots and shoots there, okay? So when you cut the lalang, you must also dig away the roots and the shoots, and then you have a clean garden. So the principle here is this: the root problem must be dealt with. Okay? Don't deal just with the symptoms. If, for example, you have tuberculosis, TB, and you have cough, right? So you treat the cough, but you don't treat the TB. So there are a number of root problems. One is an ignorance issue, one is a sin issue, and sometimes there's a demonic issue also. But I want to concentrate just on the deep emotional pain issue. People with deep emotional pain, what do most of them do to soothe their pain? What happens is they watch pornography, they masturbate, and then they have orgasm and momentary comfort. But it doesn't take away the root problem. So we say that he is trying to use pleasure or porn to medicate the emotional pain, but you don't remove the root, you see? Defective so this is a defective and ineffective way. So the family history is usually something like this. The parents are religious, cold and rigid, critical and judgmental. They are severely punished. No expressions of love, like touch, hugging and words of affirmation, and also facial expression. A lot of parents cannot see their own face, right? So how do you know your face expression is telling them that you love them or you don't love them? Take this picture. Which one is the one you think will say, "Oh, I love you"? Huh? Of course, it's Michelle Obama. Okay, so what happens is the causes of emotional pain, father wounds, very common, and past traumas. So what happens is there's abuse, physical, verbal abuse when they're young, or sexual abuse, attempted abortion. She's telling abortion, I need to explain a little bit. When the mother wants to abort a child, what she is actually saying is, I want to murder the child, because they will kill the baby to bring it out. Attempted abortion, that's even more serious, because if the if the abortion is not successful, then the child survives. By the time she is born, because she can sense the parents' feelings, you see, the moment she's alive, is born, she's already suffering from low self-worth. So parents quarreling upsets the children. Parents divorcing also upsets the children, because children want both the father and the mother. Father wounds are those, and they found that those with porn addicts, 80% of them have father wounds. No bonding with the father, absent father, angry father, alcoholic father. So what do? You need inner healing, okay? So what you do is you remove the past trauma, remove the father wounds, the causes are removed, and no more deep emotional pain, pornography, and all that, okay? Now, I said that in 30 seconds, but this has to take about 2 to 5 years. Huh? But the principle is there. Huh? So where can you get inner healing? As I can see, Elijah House, Rafa Ministry, House of Joy, LL Ministry, and I feel that all churches should have this ministry. And Boys Brigade should also have this ministry as part of your training of the young people. Oh, I just want to show you, nowadays they show pictures, also it is liked by the people. There's movies and there's TVs and so on, but this one is a new technology. And one day this will become the way to show porn. Hey, how come you can? Can I start this? Sorry. Can you start this for me?
What you're about to see is an exact hologram that we recently captured at a mixed reality studio. And I don't speak Japanese, but what if I wanted to deliver my keynote in Japanese? Using Azure AI technology, I can translate my English into Japanese and train it to sound exactly like me, the same voice tones, those same inflections. Now we brought this together, my hologram and Azure AI, to show you what's possible. So first, I'm gonna put on my HoloLens 2 here, and then we'll flip in the room to the special camera so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. Let's get started. First, let me introduce you to Mini-Me. There she is, my perfect holograph. And thanks to the power of HoloLens 2, she just floats right with me. I'm literally holding my hologram, so natural. Now she's a little small to do a keynote. So let's get her up so she can do full-size Japanese keynote. Render keynote.
ホログラムになることには本当に驚くべきことがあります。私たちは最新の複合現実キャプチャ技術を使用してみてください。まさに SF が現実になるところです。
Exactly like me, just speaking Japanese. And the most amazing part? All of these technologies exist today. The future is here.
So can you imagine how porn can evolve? It has not evolved to this state yet, but it will, you know. Okay, I've dealt with the ignorance issue, sin issue, demonic issue, and the inner healing issue. But actually the porn addict still has a struggle, cannot get free. And the reason is there is a brain issue, okay, which my wife will talk about. I usually like to play this so that the relationship of the of people. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll stop here.
Can you give me that? I think. No, I don't want to come up.
You can go up on this side.
No, I can. Yeah. I'll speak. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm the last one, but the best is still the last, you know. I'll speak from the floor. I've been given a shorter time than I used to speak for 1.5 hours in our seminar. I'm giving now 25 minutes, so I don't know how much. But anyway, let's go on. We are very thankful that we were invited to be part of this conference. This is part of the workshop in the afternoon. It's a porn addiction workshop. I'm going to talk about understanding the neuroscience of porn addiction. You've heard a lot of serious, negative things about porn addiction, how it's so difficult to get out of it. Now we must know why is it so. So we will introduce ourselves. We are the Healing and Anointing Ministry team, which has been started in around 2013. So like all good things, you know, everything must start from America. It's good, isn't it? Just like Crazy Rich Asians. So from Pure Design Ministries, that produces Conquer series, it started 30 years ago with Ted Roberts in Oregon, USA. So Dr. Victor Leong gave this Conquer series to his mother, Dr. Rosie Leong. And she brought this all the way to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. And that's how Dr. Na and myself were recruited into the Healing and Anointed Ministry. And I'm very busy. I'm co-manager at Christian Practice. I'm a grandmother of 4 grandchildren. I have 3 children myself. We have three grandchildren. We have 3 children. So we got involved in this Healing and Anointing Ministry. And when we first got involved, there was nobody else who was going to help. Finally, God brought George Ng, who runs a support therapy group called Walking in Holiness. And he has this team of David Ong, Jay Singh, C.W. Liu, and Caleb. We also have other people, Pastor Inky of SIB Church, Gigi, Dr. Jin, Mei-Ling, and others. So now, if you are interested in starting a therapy group, please email your inquiries to puredesire.asia@gmail.com. Please take a picture so that you can contact this email. So basically, since I have more than 50,000 words, but I'm only given 25 minutes, so I will do it as a Q&A session, in the sense that I will pick up some questions to answer. So the first question would be, how do we define addiction? Right? You have to know how to define addiction. What do you mean by addiction? What is addiction? What is our model for the pathophysiology of porn addiction? Why is porn not right for the Christian? Why is porn not right even for the non-Christian? What are the effects on sexual relationship in marriage? Now, to answer these questions, we look at the definition of porn addiction by itself first. Addiction is a primary chronic relapsing disease of the reward, memory, motivation, and related areas in the brain. Look, it's a disease and is in the brain. The discussion today is therefore based on a model that conceptualizes porn addiction as a disease, with psychodynamics and neuropharmacopathology very similar to the well-researched substance addiction such as cocaine and other behavioral addictions such as gambling, you know. Now, this is the model on which we base our talk and our seminar, because not that much of scientific evidence is available for porn addiction. But there are tons and tons of literature on drug addiction. That's why we are using the model for that. Now, all addictions, whether porn or drug or alcohol or gambling share similar characteristics in that the victims are caught in a brain trap, voluntarily or by deception or by circumstances. So they are basically brain addiction traps, either porn or video games, gambling, drugs, alcohol, or social media. So basically, there is a loss of freedom. It's a loss of the freedom to choose. That's the meaning of addiction. So all addictions may just begin as social problem, a moral problem, a sin problem. It's getting trapped in doing what you should not do. And then what happens? They become brain problem. By this time, you cannot stop what you don't want to do. Like in book of Romans, you cannot stop what you don't want to do. So how did the porn addict's brain get kidnapped? It started with simple, watching porn. And what is porn? It is anything you see, read, or hear that makes you have porn sex. It's found in many types of media, whether it's magazines, books. And in those days, it's a Playboy magazine. Now, you don't have to go and look for a Playboy magazine at the back, some CD shop. It runs after you. Porn hunts you today. In videos, in movies, in computers, tablets, smartphones, TV, anywhere. And worse, with the MCO, stay home. The stay-home order, even worse, right? And of course, the Zoom homeschooling. All the tiny little kids are all using the computer and not supervised. So let's look at the little, this young boy called, is one of the teenagers. Let's call him Tim. He's part of your Boys Brigade teenager. Now, he's very bored because he has to do his Zoom. He cannot go and play out with his friends. He has to stay at home, MCO. The police will fine you if you go out. So he's very bored. He can't play his games. He's frustrated. He's in pain. Why? Because his parents are quarreling. The father has lost a job, right? And the mother has to do all the cooking, cleaning, and everybody is very angry and stressed out and depressed. So what do the boy do? Okay, he try and do his homework, okay? He's a teen already, so he has to do, nowadays, a lot of the teens ages, they have to go into the internet and surf the net to do research for the homework. And then what happened was, somehow, he got tempted. Why? Because a pop-up from the porn video came up. Now what should he do? He should click it off, isn't it? But then he's a teenager, he's very curious, and his sexual hormones are rising. He will do just what Nike says, right? Feel like it, do it. It's a moral failure. It started out as a moral failure, but anyway, what's wrong with pornography? What's wrong with watching pornography? So where is the word porn in the Bible? Anyone can find the word porn in the Bible? So what's wrong? Well, if you look at what Jesus said, watching, looking is enough. Matthew 5:28 says, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. How can you commit adultery with somebody by looking at somebody? For many years, I just could not understand this verse until we started, getting involved with the pornography this ministry. You look, then you can commit adultery. Men look. What happens when men look at pornography? That testosterone will go up immediately. After 35% within an hour, and it will take more than an hour later on for it to go back to normal. So if men keep looking at the pornography, what do? They will have an increased desire and repeated desire. Repeated desire, watching porn, will lead to lust. That's how it all started. Maybe innocent. But, so what happened now is, Tim has computer sex with an image. He has actually committed cyber fornication, cyber adultery with a computer, that's all. So the brain psychology is affected, just as Dr. Na has suggested. Why? The reason is, why is it the brain psychology affected? Is because normal sex and pornographic sex activity are all recorded in the brain, and they affect the psychological state of the person. What happens in sex in porn will tell you why. See, here's a man and his wife. The problem is, the wife is not involved when he has this sex with pornography, in pornography. So, you know, the reason is because his mind has been conditioned and he has been trained in his mind to have a make-believe sex with virtual porn actors and actresses in the laptop or the HP. You know? And basically he has sex with himself because he masturbates. And then he takes even more and more and more hardcore porn as he goes along. And he keeps masturbating until one point when he cannot be a potent anymore. He's unable to have sex with his real woman, his wife, and eventually he gets a flat line. The flat line means total impotence, no erection despite the masturbation. And there are many young men who are non-Christians who have gone to this website by this guy called Gary. So he has talked about these people who need to stop masturbation in order to get back into, and stop pornography, to get back into normal sexual activity. Now, the second question is, why is it so difficult to kick off any addiction? The normal reward system, it has been hijacked. And the brain pathology of porn and other addictions will be explained now. The reward pathway has two parts. The thinking brain, which is responsible for thinking, reasoning, and choice. And the second part is the emotional brain. The emotional brain, there are many parts, but I like to point out nucleus accumbens, which is responsible for the brain pleasure and reward center secreting dopamine. And dopamine is a pleasure chemical. Then you can see that the whole emotional brain is made up of many, many parts, all interconnected together. So this is an example of the brain reward system in action. Now let's follow me. We go to Charating Beach. This is at Alpha Sat, right? Anyone recognize that? So let's go to Charating Beach, okay? And let's drive along the past Bentong. And suddenly, what happens? Musang King. Wow! What do you do with you pass a Musang King? You pass it already more than a mile. Turn back. That's right. You turn back, right? So why do you want to turn back? The reason is when you saw the Musang King, impulses go to your brain. The thinking brain says, "Wow, it's worth considering," and it tells the feeling brain, "Very nice, a lot of pleasure. Why don't we just do something about it?" So you take action. You drive back, right? You take action. So, what do? You choose the durian. Then you open it. And then what do? Open your mouth, right? Woo! Wow!
Yeah, that is just mind-blowingly sweet and bitter. And
Mind-blowingly sweet. He won't even let go a bit.
actually, don't. A little piece fell off.
It was the dopamine release. That's why you pine for durian. You pay, I'm a leg for durian nowadays. Very nice. But too much dopamine results in food addiction. This guy had to be taken by a forklift when he would need to go to hospital. Video games, another problem. Video games can cause addiction. Be careful if you play video games. It can, I didn't say it must. How can something that is good, the reward pathway made by God for our pleasure, that God has made, can now turn back? It becomes an addiction pathway. Now, how can that happen? Let's look at the brain. What happens to the brain? The brain has this function of neuroplasticity. It can change and it adapt as it is used. So the hijacked natural reward pathway now become more and more strengthened and thickened. Then it becomes the unnatural addiction pathways. The normal reward pathway has now become the unnatural addiction pathways. If you look now, in the brain functional MRI scan, you can see what happens in the brain when the porn addict watches porn. And this experiment was done by Dr. Valerie Woon of Cambridge University in 2014. She has released these pictures. And the porn addict can show hyperactivity in the reward pathway.
A network of interconnected areas across the brain, the so-called reward network. Here, pleasure is processed and evaluated. At the heart of the network is the ventral striatum, the reward center. This is where our sense of pleasure is first produced. Food, sex, drugs, it's all registered as delicious, as something we want more of. The compulsive users' brains were twice as active in their ventral striatum.
Okay, so now the chemical changes also can happen in the brain. Dopamine operates as a pleasure chemical in the reward system. This is dopamine. Normal level of dopamine, after food, it goes up, goes back again. With normal sex, it goes up, it lasts longer. But in pornography, you find that it's 300% the normal. It's a super normal stimulus in porn. And then this disturbance in the dopamine in the brain causes intoxication, withdrawal, and craving. The brain effects in addiction, we have psychology, chemical and structure change, and damage change. You get brain fog. The person can't think very clear. There's also the delta phosphate protein. This causes severe craving. Now, is it all genetics or environment? Do genetics play a part? How much does environment influence porn addiction? What can you as a trainer do to prevent and reduce incidence of addiction to porn? See, some people are just more prone. Why? Because they have this DRD2, A1 gene, the sin addiction gene. This sin addiction gene is present in about 30% of people in US population. It's probably present here also. They have less dopamine receptors, so they need more dopamine in order to get the fun out of things. They cannot enjoy fun. And the genetics can contribute to 40% the chance of addiction. This is also why not every porn watcher becomes an addict. Some people do not have this gene. They find it better able to overcome, unless they are really, really very serious in the addiction. And the widespread internet access has really caused a serious problem. Netflix also is like soft porn, isn't it? So sometimes I don't just stop watching it. Then, of course, COVID-19 lockdown has increased porn traffic. The unsupervised homeschooling is terrible. The internet is a double-edged sword, right? Therefore, the computer must be in a public place. You use filter software. You warn them about the danger. Watch them over during internet use. So set limits very early, even up to 16 years old. Do not use the iPad as a regular babysitter. How can you prevent relapses? Technology. Cut out totally. Smartphone, forget about it. Lock it up. Use Nokia. Isolation, loneliness, have accountability support groups. The Boys Brigade group. Mood, depression, they get depression and use medication, go to psychiatrists, get inner healing. Genetics. The presence of the DRD2A1 gene increases addiction. The absence of VGL-UT3 gene increases addiction. In the soul, there may be family problem, broken self-worth, peer pressure, mental illness, and spiritually, the broken spirit. All these contribute to addiction. So what are the options for treatment? Number one is, there are people who can watch porn and don't get addicted. There are people who watch video games, don't get addicted. And these are the mild ones whom you can say, get rid of the dirty habit. Be disciplined, turn away from porn. But there are the serious ones who need outpatient treatment. And we have our friend George Ng and his church leaders who are able to run therapy groups. And then they have the very serious long-term addiction that require inpatient treatment. We don't have such things available yet. But maybe the family members can come in to help. Maybe some of you can start volunteering to help your boys. So what is the Porn Addiction Action Plan? The Walking in the Holiness program, based on Pure Desire Ministry of US, involves small groups similar to Alcohol Anonymous. It's started by George Ng, and he can help you. So your church has to initiate a porn addiction healing support groups. And this is the email. You can contact him. He will answer you, and he will help you to start your own groups. The idea is freedom from porn, restore intimacy with God and real people, restore to ministry to serve God. And we also want to let you know that we have a full-length 3-hour Zoom record video from the NACC conference for viewing. Once we work out the details, you can click on it and you can see. There are even more videos, more pictures that you can see that we have not shown you yet. So thank you. So I managed it. Yeah, we have a book. Dr. has basically written a book on pornography addiction, right? How to set free. Normally it's 30 ringgit, but we are giving it at 20 ringgit to whoever wants to buy here. At least the participants. So I hope you all will get for it. And basically, thank you so much. The last can still be the best. And the shortest. Thank you. Thank you, George, and thank you so much, Pastor Mark and George and Serena, for inviting us to be part of your workshop.
Thank you, Dr. Chiam. We have some token that we want to present to you and give it to you guys. A little gift from us to say thank you for this wonderful session. I think round of applause for Dr. Paul and Dr. Chiam. Yep. You can just take with the President. All right, thank you once again, Dr. Paul and Dr. Chiam. Before Serena come out to do the announcement, so I just want to make a quick conclusion for today's workshop. So how do you find it? Awesome? Very informative, right? So this is actually just a preview of what knowledge we can have access to, how we can equip ourselves to serve the ministry better. All right? So definitely with all the sessions that we have, we hopefully in the days and months and years to come, we can have the full version of being to indulge and dive deep into the knowledge of each different sections that we have for today. And that, you must come for next year's BCM now. All right? Okay, so, but without further ado, I think I want to give thanks to Dr. Paul, Dr. Chiam, and all the speakers that we have today, and thank God for them for sharing with us their knowledge and their experience that will help us, I'm sure, on how to serve our members better.